The radio on your dash is more than radio. That SiriusXM button is instant access to a world of exclusive entertainment, including ad-free music channels for every genre and decade. You can also hear your favorite sports, comedy, talk, and news. Plus, you can stream with the SiriusXM app on your phone and connected home devices. So grab your phone, dial pound 250, and just say SiriusXM to get 12 months for $5 a month with a new select subscription. Call for offer details. Fees and taxes apply.
CareerBuilder is made for people who have that thing. You know, those superpowers that make you good at your job, the skills you bring to work. And CareerBuilder knows those skills make you right for other jobs too. Higher paying jobs with benefits. Jobs you never thought of trying. Are you a people person? Work from home as a customer service rep? Are you organized and like driving? Become a delivery driver. You have the skills it takes, and CareerBuilder.com has the jobs to get you hired fast. Visit CareerBuilder.com.
Learning from mistakes is important, but don't you prefer to learn from the painful mistakes of others? I'm Tim Harford, host of Cautionary Tales, the podcast that looks for valuable lessons from great crimes and disasters of the past. You'll fly in a doomed airliner hijacked by idiots, witness the world's worst bank robbery, and uncover the deeds of a doctor who paid friendly house calls to his patients while really planning their murders. To subscribe, head to the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Brought to you by Discover. Discover something brighter.
Welcome into the Nuts. I'm Mike Palm. He's Amal Shaw. This is Season 1, Episode 168, Who Needs a Guest? That's right, Amal. We have a new producer, Britton Hess, and he said, let's focus on your talents. You don't need guests as a crutch, so that's what we're going to do for the next 57 minutes or
I
so.
appreciate it. It only took 167 episodes for someone to hear to what I had to say.
All right, let's start out with the segment called Wild or Right. And I'm going to ask you if the line on a college football game is wild or is it the right line. Let's start in the Big House on Saturday with Washington traveling cross-country to take on Michigan. In the games of the year, the look-ahead, right, before last week's games, this was about a field goal. Washington gets beat at home by Montana. Michigan takes care of business against Western Michigan, and they're now almost a touchdown favorite, laying 6.5 of them all. Is this wild or is it right?
I think it's a little bit wild, and I'll tell you why. Ronnie Bell, the best receiver for Michigan, leading receiver last year, had a terrific one-handed catch last weekend where he got called for an offensive PI, but it's still worth seeing the catch he made. I think you saw that one. He's going to be out for the season. That is a big blow to the Michigan offense. I don't know if they're going to be able to necessarily be as effective. They did a nice job defensively. Mike, for me, I'm not going to touch this game, but I'm looking for towards the total on this matchup. Washington still has a very good defense. They just weren't effective offensively, and I don't know if Michigan can be as effectively in this matchup.
I'm going to go back and look, and I wanted to this morning, but it didn't line up in the right order on the Pac-12 network. But they were doing those football in 60s where they condensed the game.
Love that.
Oh, I love them.
Yeah.
But I wanted to watch Montana and Washington, but it didn't come on till later, and I'd already seen San Jose State and USC live. But I want to go back and look at that and find when it's on again because I want to see what Washington's struggles were on offense before I make a play on this game.
It's a very fair point, but if I may suggest one thing to you, just record it even when the in 60s being played so you don't have to watch the commercials.
Well, I'll do that. I just wasn't that ambitious at 5 this morning when I woke up and flipping big.
Yeah, thanks for the text message.
Well, all I do is I go to Big Ten Network and Pac-12 for those game football in 60s. Those are the best things ever. They are. An old Southwest Conference rivalry takes place in Little Rock as Texas, off their victory over Louisiana, travels to play the Razorbacks. I thought the Texas offense looked a lot better. You love the running back. You think he's the best player in the Big 12. Arkansas struggled early. They were trailing Rice. They came back, punched in a late score to cover the 20, it may be noted.
Sam Pittman understands how to appease the alums.
He sure does. There were about 3 or 4 examples of that this weekend. Late. Kentucky was throwing the ball with a minute and a half left to go to cover that number.
Well, no, in their defense with Kentucky, you have to understand, they haven't had a passing game in decades, so they're trying to figure out, hey, there's extra practice time out here.
Do you make a big improvement for them hiring the offensive coordinator that worked for the Rams and bringing in McVay's offense? You're right. They haven't thrown the ball in a long, long time.
No, I think we'll see, but I don't know if they have the players right now.
Yeah.
They've got to get better. The problem at UK has always been lack of quarterback play, but in reference to Arkansas, look, Jefferson's got to be efficient. He wasn't tremendous. They scored those late touchdowns. They were trailing. They won by 21, right?
They were down 14-7 at one point.
And they were up 7 with about 5 minutes to go in this game. They got 2 late touchdowns, so I'm not ready to back the Razorbacks. I think this is going to be an interesting matchup in terms of the game itself. This is going to be a huge game, important for both sides.
The number is 7. Mm-hmm. The Longhorns laying 7 on the road. Do you think that's the right number?
I do, but I think it's going to be tough going into Fayetteville. This is arguably, outside of Alabama, coming in the biggest game, and actually might mean more to people because, remember, Arkansas borders Texas.
Yeah.
For a lot of people that are not familiar with that part of the country, this is a rivalry. Obviously, it's kind of been stymied since they haven't played since 2014.
It's not quite Darrell Royal and Frank Broyles,
no.
but there's still plenty of hate on both sides.
100%, yeah. Absolutely.
Pittsburgh is a 3.5-point favorite at Tennessee. Odd they would be a favorite at an SEC team. Tennessee took care of business last week, covered that spread as well late in the second half on the Thursday night opener.
Yeah, they did. Let's address one thing, though, when you reference the SEC, okay? Outside of Alabama, obviously, the greatest program in college football history, especially this dynasty that they've had. LSU's won 3 national titles in the last 18 years. They've had a tremendous run. And then, at the same time, we know how competitive Georgia's been. The rest of the SEC is no different than the Pac-12 or any other league.
Dan Mullen might take exception to that. You're leaving Florida out of the mix?
Florida, you know what? They have won. Yeah. They won a couple of national titles, but that was when Urban was there, and you got to go back to 2008. It's been 13 years since the Gators have had a pulse. All I'm saying is people talk about the SEC, and Tennessee wants to get credit for being in the SEC. They're the ones when you go to bowl games that yell SEC. Alabama doesn't yell SEC. They don't need to because they are the league. All I'm saying is it doesn't come as much of a surprise to me when you look at Pickett back under center. I like Milton, the quarterback at Tennessee. These guys can't catch the football at Tennessee. I don't know if you saw the Bowling Green game. They can't catch.
Welcome into the Nuts. This is Mike Palm. He is Amal Shaw. We're talking about college football lines for week number 2. How quickly you forget T. Martin and the dynasty that Phil Fulmer built there.
Yeah, okay. And by the way, that championship goes to, who was the Arkansas quarterback? I'm drawing a blank right now. He put the ball on the ground. Yeah. I'm drawing a blank right now.
I got to tell you, one of the best bets in football, though, was when Peyton Manning would play Florida. Just take the Gators every year.
Well, listen, you can't spell UT. You can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT.
Here's another example of an SEC school being an underdog at home. NC State, and your guy, Dave Dorn, they beat South Florida. Now, I don't know, should they get credit for beating South Florida? I want to talk about that later in the show and the matchup with Florida this week. But they go into Starkville, and they're actually laying 2 points. Mississippi State had no business winning that game against Louisiana Tech. I thought they looked absolutely awful, and for 3 quarters, Louisiana Tech was the better team. They do come back and get the victory. NC State is -2 on the road. Is this wild or is this right?
No, I think this is about right. To me, when you look at it, by the way, I thought the Tennessee line was right as well. In this matchup, you're right. Wait, hold on a second. I thought you said NC State was favored.
Yeah, -2 here, it says on the
Okay, so the line is flipped now. We've got Mississippi State as the, okay, it is NC State is the road favorite at -2, but I think this is correct. Mike, here's the problem. Skip Holtz mismanaged that game for Louisiana Tech. Why are you playing for a 46-yard field goal in college football? These kickers, you can't rely on them. I didn't even
understand. A minute and a half to go. They had plenty of time.
They had 3 timeouts in 45 seconds, first down and 10. Move the football, be effective a little bit, get about another 10, 15 yards and win the game on the road. They blow it. That's all coaching. I don't know what NC State is because they played a South Florida team. I think Bishop Sycamore would give them a game. South Florida is a bad football team. I can't really gauge NC State. I have question marks about Mississippi State. I'm not a big fan. These are tricky numbers when you lay these on the road. But, Mike, I think the ACC team is going to get the road win here.
We talked about Dino Babers in Syracuse and whether he'd win enough games to keep his job. They did go into Ohio and were pretty impressive in that game. Rutgers now travels to the Carrier Dome for an interstate match. Well, not quite an interstate match, but close. They go into New York from New Jersey. They are 2.5-point favorites at Syracuse. Has this been a quick turnaround for Greg Schiano that they're favored in this spot, or is Syracuse just really this bad? They were decent against Ohio last week.
Great questions, and I think it's a combination of both. I think you're right about Schiano getting things turned around with Rutgers. They were much more competitive last year. Remember, Rutgers went to the overtime against Michigan last year and lost a hard-fought game. A couple of years previous, they lost by about 2 million points against Michigan. You look at Syracuse, everyone's like, well, Syracuse did an effective job on the ground. Let me tell you one thing about Ohio University's run defense. They were in the bottom 10% in college football last year. This team, when you look at Syracuse, I don't think is that good. They put up some points and some numbers against a bad team. I think Noah Vedral and company go on the road. They get the road win here. I like Rutgers in this spot.
I was watching that game, Syracuse at Ohio. It was really a gray day in Athens on Saturday, and I kept looking for an opportunity to bet the end game, but nobody could stop. I mean, they were running the ball, so you got a running clock, but they weren't forcing any punts. You're right, that Ohio run defense was not good.
And Tommy DeVito has regressed in his time at Syracuse. I mean, I think he was like 11 for 18 or 17 or something for 92 yards passing.
All right, let's take a look at this matchup between a Big 12 power Kansas as they travel to play Coastal Carolina. This number did astound me a little bit because it's still a Power 5 school here. They're catching 25.5 points, Kansas.
Well, it's no surprise when you look at the Jayhawks. You look at the power forward position. Bill Self reloads there every year. I think this team's got a chance to be able to win this game. No, come on, Kansas? Are we even talking about them in college football? I didn't even know they had a team. Lance Leopold's team is horrendous. Look, I think it's still too many points, though, Mike. You can't be laying 25.5 with Coastal Carolina. How many points is KU going to be a dog to Oklahoma? 1,000?
It might be in the 40s, except Alex Grinch's defense. That might be the only team they can score on. That speed defense, where he plays 22 guys.
Bring out some more people from the Athletic and let them tell me how good Alex Grinch is.
Were you impressed that Coastal was able to cover the spread against Mitch Moss's Citadel?
No, the problem is what you guys didn't take into consideration. Shea Wertz and Georgia Southern have been running the triple option for years down there in Streetsboro. They are very familiar with it. That's why they were able to shut it down in the first half. They had the game covered. I told you that as soon as you made the play, I said, hey, they play the triple option. This is nothing new.
They had to score. It was competitive. They almost covered the score. I mean, if they just didn't score any points in the first half. Yeah. Maybe it was the second half.
Did they give you 20% of your wager back on that?
No, they did not. South Carolina plays East Carolina on Saturday in an early game. That's noon Eastern time, 9 o'clock out here. East Carolina favored by 2 at home over the SEC school. This is an East Carolina team that is 0-1, losing 33-19 to App State last week.
Yeah, and the question is Zeb Nolan going to be the quarterback for South Carolina? Remember, he is the North Dakota State graduate assistant who had to come in and play for these guys. So something to pay attention to in this matchup here. But, Mike, this is not a game I'm going to get involved in. I think this number is probably incorrect. I think this should be having South Carolina probably about a 3-point favorite.
The line's moved now. South Carolina taking the money to 1.
And you said it was -2 the other way, right? Yeah, I think this line should be Carolina minus a field goal.
Would you take it now at -1, or you're not interested in this game?
I think I would, but here's my problem. I don't like to bet on teams that are not particularly strong. Shane Beamer coming in as a first-year coach. I think this is a matchup they're going to win in Greenville, but not my ideal type of play on a team like the Gamecocks. And it's one of the things that why I don't bet on certain teams. There's certain matchups I'm just never going to bet on certain teams throughout the course of the season, on or against for the most part. And this is one of those teams where South Carolina, probably one of the few teams in the SEC I won't get involved with. But with all that being said, I don't think this is a bad spot for the Gamecocks. This is a very winnable game in a road situation at Dowdy-Ficklin. I think they can get the road win here.
Come Saturday night, around 7 o'clock Pacific, all eyes will be on Fort Collins as the SEC power Vanderbilt travels to play Colorado State. Both teams, very inauspicious beginnings in week number 1. Vanderbilt gets whacked by Eastern Tennessee, 23-3. Colorado State gets smoked by South Dakota State, 42-23. Colorado State, a 7-point home favorite of them all. Is this wild or is this right?
I think at this point in time, we'll see if Clark Lake can get this team going in the right direction. I don't know. I don't know enough about Vandy right now. I know they already got off to a rough start. They got off to a Vandy-like start, if I can say that, against East Tennessee State, losing by 20 at home. That concerns me. But who's Colorado State to be laying a touchdown in this particular spot? Not exactly a fan of the Rams in this particular spot either. So I'm going to say this is right. I just don't have enough information on either of these teams to make an educated decision.
Well, this total of 50 surprises me because if Vanderbilt can only score 3 points against East Tennessee, how does this game get to 50? I mean, what the implied score here is 28, 21, 29, right? That means Vanderbilt's got to get to 3 touchdowns. I'd look at the total a little bit. I'd have to do some more research. Maybe Colorado State's defense is that bad, giving up 42 to South Dakota State.
Yeah, 3 turnovers also for Vandy last week. That was a concern. Seals throws 2 picks. But again, Mike, to me, here's how I kind of boil this down. Sometimes we'll sit there and focus on an Alabama-Miami game, but it's one game. If you're not going to bet that heavily, it doesn't matter. And Vandy's Colorado State, for me, it's not a game I'm going to get involved with, so it doesn't really it's not as much of a concern for either team when you go big picture of the season.
Amal, do you think it's easier for the bookmakers to make numbers on 2 top 25 teams than it is on 2 bottom 25 teams?
I firmly believe that. That's why I always say the Metro Atlantic in college basketball is one of the easiest leagues to bet on, because I can tell you right now, you don't have a single person back here that's watched as many Metro Atlantic games as I have. They're not sitting there literally watching every game on a Saturday on those matchups. They go a lot based on numbers, and I think it's a similar situation with Vandy and Colorado State. You may be having them on in the background, but let's be real here. You're going to be more concerned with somebody coming in and betting Alabama heavily or betting a Miami heavily compared to Colorado State and Vanderbilt.
11 p.m. Eastern kickoff in Corvallis as Hawaii plays Oregon State. Oregon State went to Purdue and lost to Purdue. Hawaii wins last week at home after getting beat up by UCLA in the Rose Bowl in week 1. Oregon State's an 11-point favorite here. Is this line wild or right? And I asked you, was Hawaii's loss to UCLA flattered by UCLA's victory over LSU?
A little bit, but remember you pointed out to that situation early in the game where they took the knee on the punt. I think that had a little bit of an impact in that situation. So we'll see. Oregon State, kind of what you expected when they went to West Lafayette. I think the big question mark with this team is, can they get consistent play from Trevor Gebbia at quarterback? If he can be effective, then they've got a chance. I'm not going to lay this number. This is where, to me, the end game is such an advantage, Mike. If you believe in one side or another strongly, take it before the game. But if you don't, and if you just want to kind of pay attention, respect what the original number is, and then go from there.
I want to talk about Texas A&M at Colorado. Tom Hart, among others, who is very high on Texas A&M, thinks they have a shot to knock off Alabama in College Station, get to the SEC title game, get to the playoff this year. They go to Boulder to take on the Buffaloes. They are favored. I think
this one's at Invesco.
They are okay.
Yeah.
They are favored by 17 in this game. Is this line wild or is this line right?
I think the line's about 3 points too high, but I think it's close enough where
it's at mile high.
I don't think it's enough to make a play on either side. I would lean towards Colorado, but I don't have any confidence in them yet. I want to see Lewis play myself. Haven't seen him yet. What he's been able to do under center. I think would they play Northern Colorado in week 1? I'm not going to get overly excited about a team that plays an FCS team and see how they perform. Also, A&M came out a bit flat against Kent State. They in the first half, they didn't look good. Second half, they kind of flipped the switch a little bit. They've got to get focused and ready to go.
You've got to give them time to adjust after a decade with Kellen Mond under center and to having a new quarterback.
Yeah, why are you cutting off 3 years off of his career? It might have been 13 or 14.
Notre Dame escapes at the Doak. Now they come home to host Toledo. That game goes at 11:30 a.m. here in the Pacific time zone, 2:30 on the East Coast. They are laying 17 to Toledo. Is that number wild or right?
No, I think this number is right. And I think, Toledo's always a solid squad. They'll be competitive. But more importantly, I think the game against Florida State by the final score, people are forgetting the fact that Florida State benefited from a horrendous running into the kicker penalty instead of a roughing. Changed the dynamic of that football game. I don't know if people like myself would have gotten a cover had that call gone the other way. I think Notre Dame is solid. I'll tell you one thing. Jack Cohen's like, hey, if you would allow me to throw the ball at Wisconsin, you guys would have won some more games. And he was impressive for Notre Dame. I did not think he'd play as well as he did. I like this Irish team. They had to replace a ton of starters on offense, but they didn't skip too many beats.
Are the Wisconsin faithful wishing they had Jack Cohen back after Saturday?
After what they saw out of Graham Mertz, they're calling for Jim Sorgi.
Your team, Ohio State, in one of the games of the week is going to host Oregon at the Horseshoe. You said preseason, if you could get double digits in this game, you should take them with Oregon. Yeah. This number now up to 14.5 a mall.
Yeah, but there's a couple of factors that are kind of preventing me from doing that right now. One, at 14.5, I have to look at Oregon. God, that's a big number. I didn't realize it had gone over 14. Kayvon Thibodeau, in my opinion, the best player in college football. He's got an ankle injury. He got hurt early on in that game against Fresno State. It had a huge impact. Remember, he forced a fumble. They had the ball first down and goal at the 3-yard line for their first or second possession for Anthony Brown. They capitalized on that. I like their combination of running back between Vardell and Dye, very effective. At the same time, when you look on the perimeter, they've got some playmakers out there. They've got some guys that can get some things done for them. The interesting matchup, and it's going to be for draft positioning, Watch Wright, the cornerback, going up against Olave and Wilson for Ohio State. Should be a lot of fun. All three guys should be first 60 picks, but will have an opportunity to improve their draft stock in this game. But here's the problem for Oregon. I've said this 1,000 times on this show, Mike. Anthony Brown is the deficiency for this team. Charlie Brewer, who's the transfer from Baylor at Utah, if he was the quarterback at Oregon, to me, Oregon is now a top 7, top 6 national title contender. With Anthony Brown, I don't think that's the case. I think what helps Ohio State is going to have their first game with a crowd in 2 years. It is going to be a raucous atmosphere in Columbus. Also, Oregon, remember, Mike, early start time for them, 9 a.m. I don't understand why this game is being played at this time. I guess they figured Washington and Michigan would be a better national prime time for them.
Remember, everything really revolves around Fox for the Big Ten.
Yes.
And Fox is going 9-1-5, right?
By the way,
Saturday now.
By the way, got to give credit to Fox for that. They understand gambling.
Perfect.
ESPN tries to stuff every game in 3 hours, and not a single game ends in 3 hours, including Navy Air Force.
Yeah, 9-1-5 is great, though.
It is, because you can get those bets in.
And the 1-1:30 game is Iowa State on Fox this week. So that's where
what a great Saturday
right?
it's going to be. I can't wait.
So that's where Ohio State is. Your boy De'Ara King and the Miami Hurricanes are going to host a very solid Appalachian State squad. They are laying 9 o'clock. This game goes 4 o'clock.
I got to give you a quick stat on the Hurricanes, and this is why I think that win by Alabama is so overhyped. The Miami Hurricanes gave up more points in the first week of the season in the last 2 games in last year's regular season, and bowl game included, than any team in college football. In their last 3 games, they've given up 143 points, which equates to about 47 points per game, Mike, a little bit, almost close to 48. This team is horrendous defensively. De'Ara King is not an accurate passer. I don't know why nobody would tell Manny Diaz that. You don't have anybody else at the U that can throw the football. I got a lot of question marks here. App State will play. They are competitive. I don't think this will be an easy game. Cameron Harris struggled in that game against Alabama. I get the Crimson Tide have a better defense, but if he can't run the ball, De'Ara King will not be effective throwing the ball. 9 is a number that I would look towards taking with App State.
Fresh off a poor performance at Jerry World, David Shaw leads his Stanford Cardinal into the Coliseum to take on USC on Saturday afternoon. Trojans laying 17. Is that number wild or is it right?
No, this is right. Now, maybe you want to consider being a little bit higher. First of all, I don't know if Stanford is still on quarters. They used to be on quarters. They may have switched to semesters. But if they're still on quarters, you haven't gotten your tuition paid yet. But if you have, quit the team. You can't play for someone this dumb. There's no reason to play for a coach that's this idiotic. I'm not going out there putting my body on the line through practice every day because this guy can't do simple math and won't give us a chance to even compete in a football game. What the hell is going to happen down in Los Angeles?
I think you're being too hard on David Shaw. There's some coaches that are innovators. He brought the 19-yard field goal back into vogue in college football.
Well, listen, Jimmy Sexton, you go ahead and represent him if you do. I'm sure you do, along with every other SEC coach, and you can strong-arm those athletic directors who don't have a clue about why they signed guys like Gus Malzahn. Look, there's no reason you can back Stanford in this position right now. We got to see it with the Cardinal. They didn't have a pulse. I mean, they didn't score for the first 56 minutes of this game. I think it was like 56-44 to be precise. USC looked pretty good, but the final score against San Jose State was not necessarily indicative of how the game played out. I would say this, Mike. I would look towards the under 51.5 here. I think this game number is correct. I would look at the total under.
San Jose State had opportunities in that game, too.
Yeah.
I went back and they missed a very short field goal on a first-and-goal situation. That game should have been much tighter heading to the fourth quarter.
100%. They were down 23-7 with the drive, and they had a chance to, they would have at least taken 6 points because they would have gone for 2. We don't know how it would have played out, but had some opportunities there. Let's see what the Trojans do. But if you are Clay Helton, you got to win this game in dominant fashion.
Convincingly.
Yes.
All right. Blake Snell takes a no-hitter 6 2/3 last night and loses as a $3 favorite. We'll take a look at Major League Baseball action today. That's next.
It's crazy how much we have to pay for outdated, impersonal healthcare, and even crazier that we all just accept it. It's time to face facts. Healthcare is backwards. Luckily, there's Forward, a new approach to primary care that's surprisingly personal and refreshingly straightforward. Forward never makes you feel like just another patient. Backed by top-rated doctors and the latest tech, Forward gives you access to personalized care whenever you need it. Using in-depth genetic analysis and real-time blood work, Forward's top-rated doctors provide you with in-depth insights to better understand your genetics, mental, and physical health. They then create custom, easy-to-understand plans to help guide you to achieving long-term health. With Forward, you get unlimited in-person visits with your doctor and access to care anytime via the Forward app, all for one flat monthly fee. It's time to stop accepting backwards healthcare and start moving your health forward. Visit GoForward.com today to learn more. That's GoForward.com.
Need an escape from the everyday? Take a sleuthing trip back to the Roaring 20s with June's Journey, the murder mystery mobile game packed with adventure and intrigue. So why is it called June's Journey? Here's the scoop. June's sister and brother-in-law have both been found dead, leaving their daughter orphaned. But June suspects foul play, and she's on a journey to prove it. That's where you come in. June's Journey puts your detective skills to the test. Seek and find hidden objects in beautiful, colorful, and carefully crafted sceneries. Compete with friends to see who has the keenest sense of observation. And climb the leaderboard with people who all enjoy doing the same thing. Solving mysteries. June's Journey has everything, including 30 million fans. That many fans can't be wrong. So download June's Journey now for free. It's the most fun you'll have on your phone, guaranteed. Available on your favorite app store.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football is back, and the best bet you can make is downloading the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It doesn't matter if you're new to gambling or an old pro, FanDuel has something for everyone. And as an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you know your bets are safe. There's also never been a better time to use FanDuel, because right now, you'll get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. You can even turn a small wager into a big payday with a same-game parlay bet. Just sign up with the promo code SPOTIFY to place your first bet risk-free on FanDuel Sportsbook. Download FanDuel today. 21 plus and present in Virginia. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back into the Nuts. I'm Mike Palm. He's Amal Shaw. Amal, Richie over the hill and the New York Mets take on the Miami Marlins once again today, facing the ace of the Marlins, Sandy Alcantara. I was a little surprised Richie Hill's a small favorite here, around $1.10, $1.15, very low total, 7, but you get a plus price on that under.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these two teams, I haven't bet on either of these teams in about a month. So for me, probably not a game I would get involved in. But I love the way Alcantara has pitched this year. Did struggle his last start against the Metropolitans, gave up 8 hits and 4 earned runs. But remember, that was at Citi Field. And one of the things that's so important when you look at a lot of these pitchers, you got to look at their home and away splits. And I think Alcantara is a perfect example of a pitcher who that one game, I think it was at Colorado, where he gave up 10 runs.
And he came back great in his next start.
You had that next game, yes. Exactly. Is a perfect example of where numbers get overinflated. The WHIP and the ERA are a little bit blown out of proportion. If you like the Marlins here, not a bad play considering how well Alcantara's pitched. I just can't back Rich Hill.
At this point, when you draw the line of who's still in the playoff races, the Mets 4 out in the East, 3.5 games back of the second wild card, which is a tie between San Diego and Cincinnati. But they also have Philadelphia and St. Louis in between them. Do you think the Mets are still viable to make the playoffs?
Well, I do, but I think it's going to be tough. When you look at those standings right now in terms of where they're at and who they've got to chase down, they're going to do it. They've got to do it through the division. I think it'll be more difficult to get through the Padres, Dodgers, and Reds or potentially the Giants, whichever one out of the West is there. But I think it'll be tough for them.
All right, well, let's talk about another team that stands between them in both the division race in the NL East and in the wild card race. That's the Philadelphia Phillies. They got drubbed at Miller Park yesterday, 12-0. They come back with Kyle Gibson today, who's going to take on Freddie Peralta. This is a very attractive price on the Phillies if you're looking to fade Peralta here. Gibson looking at plus 135, plus 140. Heavy favorite for the Brewers with Peralta, and a total of all of 8 at Miller Park.
You know, if you look at Kyle Gibson this year, he has made 25 starts. He's had 3 games where he's gotten shelled, 2 8-run starts and a single 5-run. Other than that, Mike, he has been dominant. Remember, he got absolutely just crushed his last start. I would be looking at the Phillies here to come back with Kyle Gibson. I think he'll pitch well. Total seems a little bit high here to me, but I don't like this number. I wish it were, a 9, obviously. The 8's just kind of such an in-between number, but I would look at the Phillies or the under here, Mike.
I was listening to a numbers game here on this network earlier with our friend Gil Alexander, and he had Jason Weingarten and Josh Towers on, and both of them, their best play today was Philadelphia. They were fading Peralta in this spot. I thought Gibson was one of the quiet signings around the trade deadline that really makes a difference.
You and I talked about it.
Yes, because he's given them quality outings time after time.
Look, if you're going to base it on what he did in that last game, that's a little bit of a concern against Miami. He got roughed up. But again, to me, he had a bad start at Detroit on July 19th. He gave up 8 earned runs. And other than that, for most of the season, he has pitched extremely well. And another one against Detroit. So if it's not the Tigers, who obviously own Kyle Gibson, I think he's going to pitch well. I think he bounces back. A guy like him who's been around for a long time, good opportunity for him to kind of showcase himself again after that last bad start.
Pride of Columbia, Missouri, Kyle Gibson. One more matchup we want to take a look at. We talked about this game yesterday. White Sox at A's. A's are on a losing streak now after they blew that game to Toronto. I mean, this could be the tale of two teams. That game could be very fateful. Toronto all of a sudden making a huge push, and we'll talk about this game in the playbook because I think we're going to be a oppo here today. And the A's now drifting out of the race. This is a must-win game for them. The good thing is they get to face Dallas Keuchel, who has not been good for the White Sox as of late, and Frankie Montas on the hill for the A's. Montas $1.70 with a total of 8.5 Amal.
Yeah, a little bit of a high number here, but I look for Oakland to get off the losing streak against Dallas Keuchel in this matchup. I think if you're taking Oakland here, you've got to play the run line. I remember last night you talked about it in terms of you thought that total might be a little bit high. It ends up landing on 9, but a big number for a night game. Again, similar situation here, 8.5. But to me, it's Montas minus a 1.5 or no play here. I don't want to take the Sox either. Do you think going against Oakland right now is a play, though, at plus 150 with Keuchel on the mound?
No, I don't, because I don't believe in Keuchel right now. And I think the Oakland, for Bob Melvin and his team, they've got to end this losing streak here. Yeah. I mean, they're in big trouble. I know the price is a little bit high here, and I know you generally don't like to take teams on the run line, but with Keuchel struggles, maybe you look at the run line here, plus 120 them all.
That's what I'm saying. If you're taking Oakland, I think you got to go run line. You can't lay the 170.
Reds, Cubs. Wade Miley helps the Reds in there. Break the Cubs' losing streak. Yes, a good game, though. 4-3 at Wrigley. Gutierrez today against Detective Mills for the Cubs. Any lean here?
No, not on this one. Cubs, though, had been playing well, obviously, until that one, but no lean here. The Reds, you think this is probably an opportunity for them?
Yeah, they're a cheap favorite. Yeah. That's why I look at the Reds here today, because it's just cheap. Padres lose a game they needed to win last night with Snell on the mound, and now the Reds find themselves tied with the Padres once again for the second wild card. So it just means more. The Cubs a little wind out of their sails after they break the winning streak.
What do you think this is, the SEC?
Just means more. Tom Hart, I love that guy. All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look at them all in and the Palm Reader Playbook. Now is the perfect time to start planning your football contest strategy, and the VSiN Pro Football Guide is the perfect way to start. Our VSiN experts have won major football contests around Las Vegas. Our guide will give you insight on against the spread contests, as well as the survivor pools to give yourself a winning edge. Download the VSiN NFL Guide for only $19.99, or better yet, get VSiN All Access, everything we have to offer for the entire football season. Go to vsin.com/subscribe. Welcome back into the Nuts. I'm Mike Palm. He's Amal Shaw. Speaking of contests, we're in big trouble in Survivor. 2,700 entries heading into today. We only have really 3 days, you could say 3.5 left. Do you think we get to 4,000? Paul Howard put the number out at 38.42 for the over-under.
Yeah, I don't know, 740. I think you'll have a ton of signups on Friday and Saturday. Now, they can also sign up at the Tuscany as well, right?
And the Pass in Henderson. Okay. Yeah. The Golden Gate in here. We did 330 yesterday, about half of them Survivor. But still, if you give it 3.5 days left, if we did 300 a day, we'd have to do 400 a day to get close to 4,000. We still wouldn't make it in 3.5 days. Remember, Saturday's going to be a little bit difficult to get your entries in because everybody's going to be putting their picks in for week 1 at the windows.
Why do they have to go to the window? Can't you just do it on your phone?
Or the kiosk, but the proxies do it on the kiosk.
I would do it on my phone.
Yeah, because you can't cancel a phone ticket if you make a mistake. You can cancel a printed out ticket.
Okay, so just look at it before you hit submit.
Just for the Circa Millions, not for Survivor. Once a pick is in Survivor, there's no change in it. Do you subscribe to the theory in Survivor that if the Buccaneers should happen to get beat by the Cowboys tomorrow night, that there will be a spike in entries because people will re-enter, in other words, buy more entries go with the Bucks tomorrow night and you free roll it sort of to get through week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a possibility, but how many people are going to be on Tampa that they've already taken in 6 entries that are going to want to re-enter? I mean, other people can do it, but it's like having Tampa on the money line for $1,000 depending on how many times you take them in the contest.
It's limited to people that are in town right now, obviously, as well, with the deadline being 2 o'clock on Saturday. All right, yesterday we were together on the same pick, Sabalenka. It was a very satisfying, gratifying to watch that match. I
didn't really have to watch it. It was over about 10 minutes into the first set.
I felt really good about it. And Krejcikova, who feigned death just 2 days earlier.
You and I had the exact same wager, the exact same amount.
Exact same amount, 5,100 to win 3,000.
But I'll tell you what, in this matchup, I thought she had a great chance. Today I was on the wrong side with Bencic early this morning. She got smoked, but I'm going to go, Mike. I think I'm going opposite you here. I think you're leaning towards the Blue Jays. I'm going to the Bronx. Going to the Bronx Bombers, the New York Yankees. I think they get off their 4-game losing streak here. I like their chances in this particular matchup. Look, I get the Yankees have been struggling offensively, but this is such a critical game, as well as the Blue Jays have played since last Friday. If they lose this game, Mike, a lot of the momentum that they have built up, I think, goes out the window. You need to win this game. Luis Gil has been outstanding for the Yankees so far. Hasn't given up an earned run in 3 starts. Let's even continue that trend against a red-hot Toronto offense.
You're right. I am on the opposite side as you. I'm going to continue this momentum with the Blue Jays and take Manoah at a plus price here. I know Gil has been good, but I just think the Blue Jays now believe that they can get in this. They were written off. They're still 20-1 to win the American League pennant. You can find them at 20-1. I know maybe it's shrinking now. That was still last night when that game got over. I know you still got to get through. You still got to make it into the playoffs. You probably still have to get through the White Sox or the Astros, and then Tampa Bay eventually to get through there. But go ahead.
No, to your point. You get in the tournament, you get in the playoffs.
You've made money just by getting
not only that, but you got a great chance, right? At that point in time, I thought Derek Jeter had the best quote about baseball playoffs, and summarizing it this way, he said it's the hottest team that wins, not the best team. And if you're hot in late September going into October, you got a great chance.
So I'm against you there. I took plus 110 with Manoah in this matchup. I'm going to go back to McClanahan. Now, remember I had him last Thursday when the Red Sox met the Rays at the Trop. He got beat 4-0 by Rodriguez, who I lost with last night. I'm going to come back with McClanahan against Eovaldi, but the first 5 under again. I've done this now 3 times in a row with Eovaldi's first 5s. I pushed once and I won once. I'm going back to it. The total's 5 of them all. McClanahan, Eovaldi, first 5, and even money, plus $1. Comments.
I hear what you're saying. I think I slightly warned you yesterday on that.
That's a 4-teamer against me. Parlay against all my plays, like our guy's Tower says. Just fade Palm. I'll go against Palm today.
No, I can't do that against the soccer because I know you're going to be on the winning side here. But I told you yesterday, be careful with that Red Sox game. I didn't like the fact that they collapsed. I thought it would be a bad spot for them. The way these two teams are going offensively right now, Red Sox, I think, scored 5 or 6 runs in the 8th and 9th innings yesterday. I'm a little bit concerned. Fenway, still weather warm enough to be able to hit the baseball. I'm going to stay away from this one.
Okay, and then the 2 soccer plays. The first one is today, goes at 11:45, so just 5 minutes from now. This is, again, the European World Cup qualifiers. North Macedonia is going to host Romania. The boys from Bucharest take that 6.5-hour drive down Route 3 through the scenic Balkans here. Under 2.5, minus 145. I didn't want to wait. I thought this game might go off at 2. These two teams have played 4 of their last 5 matches, have gone under 2.5. I think these games in Europe, especially, I think yesterday there were 14 games, 11 of them went under. They're much more tightly contested. This game between Liechtenstein and Armenia was easily under this morning. I'm going to stay with this under trend and find these 2.5s and 3s. And then again tonight, the USA and Honduras. Do you think the USA is going to score 3 goals? I don't. And so I'm going to go under 2.5 and lay the 150. I thought about parlaying them because of the heavy juice on both of these games.
Where's this game being played?
This game is in Honduras.
In Tegucigalpa?
Yes.
I don't know if they're going to get out of there alive. That's a bigger concern there when you look at the murder rate in that city. To me, though, I'm with you. How can you ever take United States over right now? Defensively, they are elite. You know what? I love the way they're playing, their style. This is why the Italians have been so dominant in the World Cup, because they defend extremely well. If the United States can do the same thing here, I think a great opportunity on this game. The number's heavily juiced, but I tend to agree with you in this particular matchup.
Yeah, I just don't. Do you think Honduras scores? I mean, if you have other ways to bet this, now we don't here, right, in Las Vegas, but if you're in other markets and you're listening, you're in New Jersey, you're in Pennsylvania, you have access to different. a team total on Honduras under a half here is probably worth a play.
I agree with you there, Mike. I want to ask you a quick question about time in soccer matches. For people that are unaware, in football, college, and pro, a game has to go 55 minutes for it to be considered complete. Yeah. Do you know what the timeline you guys have here for soccer is at circa?
I believe it's 80.
It is, okay.
I believe it's 80, but check with each book. They all have different rules.
Fair enough. No, the reason I was asking is because North Macedonia, Romania one, I mean, there's always some flares going up whenever you're playing in one of these countries. You may not even get to the final match. You suffered that beat in that Marseille-Nice game with the fans.
Well, that's the fan. I mean, that's for this ludicrous, that beat.
The commentator in that matchup had one of the great lines of all time, and he goes, and the fans want a little bit of Marseille.
There was a game abandoned yesterday in South America.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? Argentina and Brazil, because it was a COVID thing. They didn't want them to play. It was an abandoned game.
But you got to still have to pay attention to these because it becomes important if you have a matchup.
Amal, we're going to delve into a new world for us here in the final segment, and we're going to start talking about teasers.
Love it.
Yeah. If Stanford Wong is the most optimal teaser, then I don't want to be right. That's next.
Hey everybody, I'm Aditi Kinkhabwala.
And I'm Mike Yam, and we are the hosts of NFL Explained. It's the podcast where football fanatics come to learn everything they always wanted to know about football.
But didn't know who to ask.
Well, they can ask us now. And of course, we're going through all of these topics, Aditi. And I know you and I are so excited to start disseminating nothing but football nugs.
Well, and Mike, I've got questions of my own. Like, do you know why the Packers are named the Packers?
I do know that it has nothing to do with Pac-Man, and it has everything to do with cheese packing.
Not cheese, with meat. Meat packing. It was a meat packing company that put $500 up for the uniforms.
Or how about this? How about like what constitutes an actual catch in football, which I would imagine all my years of covering college football is a different answer now covering the NFL.
And unfortunately, Mike, I don't think that we will possibly have enough time to figure that one out.
But the point is, you're going to be able to join us every Thursday to talk about every interesting detail about the game we love. It's NFL Explained.
Listen on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Bienvenidos, mi gente. Gloria Estefan here. We are bringing Red Table Talk the Estefans to podcast. Just like our Red Table Talk sisters, we have brought 3 generations together to talk family, relationships, and social issues from the perspective of 3 fabulosas Latinas. Join me with my niece Lily, a beloved Latina TV star and devoted mother of 2. She is Estefan.
You can break my heart, but you cannot take my soul.
And my daughter Emily. She's a talented musician. She's outspoken and a powerful voice of her generation. She's Esta Fresh.
People need people, but you have to make the first step to say that.
And I'm Esta Fierce. I'm Gloria Estefan. I'm a performer. I've been married for 42 years, have 2 children, 1 grandson, and 5 dogs. Listen to Red Table Talk the Estefans as part of the My Cultura podcast network, available on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Strawberry Spring, based on a short story by Stephen King.
Is someone there? I can't see you through the fog. Oh, it's you, thank God. Oh, please! No, don't! Help!
There was a murder on the campus of New Sharon College. Sources close to the investigation tell us that it was a female co-ed, late teens to early 20s. We'll have more.
Hello?
Henry, have you heard the news?
Yeah, just now on the radio.
There was a murder on campus. It has all the signs.
Are you telling me?
We can't be sure, but as of right now, it looks like Spring Heel Jack is back.
Strawberry Spring, starring Garrett Hedlund and Milo Ventimiglia. Produced by Audio Up Media and iHeartRadio. Listen to Strawberry Spring on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The BetRivers Sportsbook app has a huge number of live streaming events every day. BetRivers Sportsbook has great offers, including a $250 match bonus on your first deposit, and all bonuses are only one-time playthrough. Amazing offers and great customer service makes BetRivers your hometown sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, playable in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. See the BetRivers Sportsbook app for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Indiana, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Or in Colorado, call 1-800-522-4700. Playable in New Jersey as Play Sugar House.
BetRivers is the industry leader when it comes to online sports betting. BetRivers has you covered for the NFL season. They are offering same-game parlays in all pro football matchups. They're bringing back their reduced juice promotion on game days. And this NFL season, they have a $1 million Beat the Spread challenge with thousands of dollars given away each week. Pro football betting is more rewarding at BetRivers. Download the app or go to BetRivers.com. Offer valid in Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Virginia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Available at PlaySugarHouse.com in New Jersey. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Illinois, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Indiana 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Colorado 1-800-522-4700. Michigan 1-800-270-7117. Virginia 1-888-532-3500. In Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. What is Colorado like the Alaskan frontier when it comes to gambling? I notice every state is there. Are there no laws and rules there?
Well, Mike Van Erman helped to write the rules in Colorado. He sat on the committee. He did. When they were first writing the rules, they invited us to have a representative on it. So
I've noticed everybody's got a presence in Colorado. I just don't see the populace there.
But it's good because it's very friendly to the books in that the remote registration, remote funding, and they're liberal, or let's just say they're progressive in thinking about what you can offer in terms of prop bets too.
Well, I tell you the other thing I think that's really good is when you look at it, I don't know if there's a team in pro football. Yeah, we know there's a ton of Cowboy fans and Steelers fans all over the country, but if you said a state which has the most popular single team, it would be the Denver Broncos in Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, all those areas. And they're going to be betting on Vic Fangio this year. So you guys are going to really clean up.
Like, for example, when I talk about props, like we could book the hot dog eating contest in Colorado. You can't do it in Nevada, right? There's just some more things that you can be creative with in Colorado. It's more like New Jersey or the eastern states. All right. I teased that we're going to talk about teasers. Mm-hmm. And we are. And look, both you and I do bet teasers. I cashed a big 5-team teaser last year, I think in week 2, and I got lucky. I got lucky that Anthony Lynn mismanaged that game, and I think Harrison Butker kicked like 9 consecutive 63-yard field goals to eventually win that game for the Chiefs and cover that teaser. But we both, in our betting portfolio on NFL games, do utilize teasers, and we really haven't talked about it up to this point in the show. I want to start out with the Stanford Wong teaser, and that's
what is that? I don't even know what that is.
It's a 6-point teaser where you take the number through the key numbers of 3 and 7. So you go a team that's 1.5 up to 2.5, or 7.5, 8.5, and you either tease it down or up. So you cross both of the key numbers of 3 and 7. Traditionally, those are the most profitable teasers. If you look throughout all the time and look at how games are teased, they hit the most. Do you look at that when you're doing teasers? Is it key for you to get through the 3 and the 7?
No. I look at certain situations where I see a game where I think it's going to be a tight game. And I think if I tease it up, it's much more advantageous. Look, the NFL betting underdogs is advantageous. Also, teasing it up, I think, is an advantage. But if you have a team, for example, -2 in a situation, that's not a bad number. You don't mind laying it. But let's say I think they're going to win the game. I don't mind teasing them up to +4. I get 98% of the people that don't bet at our network would say that's a bad move. I say, well, you know what? I don't care. I'm putting my money on it. Until you put it the other way, I don't really give a damn. And so my point is, look, I'm going to go with where I think the matchup for me works. Yes, the numbers matter, but I'm not going to sit there and lose sleep over it if it's like going through 1, 7.5, what have you. I'm going to what I think is going to be the best situation from my betting perspective.
One of the rules of teasers is that you don't tease through the 0, Amal.
Yeah. From who? From who? No, I want to know. I want these people to tell me.
Well, that's a standard theory on teasers.
Yeah.
Do you subscribe to it?
I just told you I don't.
You've hinted at
I just told you I don't. What are you talking about, Willis?
Okay, I'm just trying to get you on the record here, Amal. We have to
on the record, I have no qualms about it.
We have to pin you down and get you out of the spin zone sometimes. So you will tease through the 0?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Look, if there's a certain situation where I think a team's going to win a game, But I think at worst case scenario, even if they were to drop the game, it would be a tight game. They're probably not going to lose by more than a field goal. I would take it up to, if it's a team -1. And look, if I can get them at +5, I generally don't do that. Let me say this. It's not a general rule of thumb for me, but it's not one I'm opposed to. It's not like a hard and fast rule where I would never do it. Like, for example, I would never tease college football games.
I wouldn't either. Do you ever tease totals?
Not regularly, but every once in a while. I would say over the course of, let's just say, 18 weeks this year, I would say probably maybe once or twice.
When you tease totals, do you put them with sides or do you always put them with other totals?
No, a lot of times I will tease them in the same game.
Okay.
Because I think there's a certain game where I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I like a team. They might be a 7-point favorite, but I think it's going to be a tight game. Take that down to 1 or take the other side up to 13.
Tease the dog in the under?
Yeah, or something to that effect. Yeah, exactly.
Do the numbers 10, for games that have higher spreads, do the numbers 10 and 14 become key numbers for you?
Games higher spread, the numbers, if they're +10, +14.
Yeah, so say you're getting a team that's getting 8.5. Do you want to tease them to 14.5 to get them through the 10 and the 14? Or do you just would take 8.5 in that game and usually not tease it?
Yeah, I would take the 8.5. For me, the teaser where I really like it is if it's a tight competitive game, like, for example, the Browns this weekend, getting 6.5. Look, Kansas City's very capable of winning by 14, but with this Browns defense and offense, I think they got a chance to really be in the game. I would look at taking the Browns up. But, I mean, if people want to take it down with the Chiefs, I got no problem with that either.
I think there's several games that are going to be on most people's teaser tickets this weekend, and I want to get your thought on whether you play the game a certain way or you would put them in the teaser as well. Let's start with tomorrow night's NFL opener as the defending Super Bowl champs Buccaneers host the Cowboys. This number is sitting at 8.5 a mall. Are you interested in teasing the Bucs down to 2.5?
I would, but here's the thing which you have to remember. Who are you going to tease them with, and does the value of the money line come into play? That's one thing you have to look at sometimes. If you're taking a 2-team money line parlay, do you get better than the -120, the -130, the -140 if you do 6, 6.5, or 7 on the teaser? So it's something to consider. The other thing, Mike, this is so important. You have to read the rules of the sports book in terms of the teaser because yes. Go ahead and speak on what you were going to say.
Go to your point.
If a tie is a push, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But if it's a loss, then you don't want to tease down. For example, you wouldn't want to tease at 6.5.
Correct.
You want to take either 6 or 7.
Does 2 become more of a key number because of 2-point conversions?
Absolutely.
And in this case, would you rather do a 7-point teaser and get it down to 1.5?
Yeah, if you're going to do that. By the way, Goodell and company have killed betting with these extra points, getting back to making it a 33-yard field goal, and in terms of teams going for 2-point conversions when it's not expected. It really just puts a real difficulty in terms on some of the in-plays.
I think the most teased, in my opinion, game this week is going to be the 49ers.
I would agree with you.
Because I think people are going to tease them down. If you use the 6-point teaser, you get them down to 1.5.
Yeah, I think even if you use the 6 is 2 you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, if the rules say it's a push, I would take the 6-point teaser so you don't have to pay the extra 10 cents. But it depends on the situation. Again, who are you teasing them with and how many points is valuable in that particular game?
We've talked about this game a lot. Seahawks at the Colts, a great opening matchup with a lot of implications for both teams. The line's sitting at 2.5. Seahawks favored by it. Many people will be tempted to tease the Colts through the 3 and the 7. A 6-point teaser gets you 8.5.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good play. I think this is a great opportunity for them in this particular situation. Let me give you an opposite teaser. I like this one. I'm in agreement with you on this one. Jets, Carolina. Okay, the Jets are getting 5, 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of people would say, well, don't tease it down. I'm going to tell you right now, I think Carolina's going to win the football game.
You would tease it to getting +1?
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this is not an ideal teaser game. I'm just giving it as an example because I think Carolina's going to win the football game. But the question I would ask is the -260, if you're going to take it with someone else, is it better off being moneyline parlay than necessarily? And here's the advantage of a moneyline parlay, or if you get the +0.5, Mike, you can always in-game the plus number. Let's say the Jets are down big early on. Now all of a sudden I can take a plus price at plus 400 or 500 on the Jets, and I'm in a situation where I have no risk. So that's another factor of going through 0 that I think a lot of people don't account for.
How about the game that's going to be played in Jacksonville with the Packers and the Saints? Saints are catching 4. Are you tempted to tease the Saints up to 11, get them through the 7 and the 10?
I would be, yeah.
Or 10.5.
I think they got a chance to cover the regular number. And so I think the 4, 4.5. Is it 4 or 4.5? 3.5.
4 or 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it's one where you would potentially look at taking this number up.
Yeah. Chargers, my team, are going to take on the football team in the nation's capital.
I'm declining.
You're going to play the Redskins in there?
No, I'm not. I'm not
going to play the Washington football team.
I'm not going to tease either side.
You're passing this game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Washington wins, but are you going to be surprised? They play this game 100 times. Washington wins 52, Chargers win 48 in my book.
Oh, I disagree with you there.
That's good.
I think if they play the game 100 times, the Chargers win 54 times. Obviously, I think more than that. But we'll see. They're going to have to go against the front seven. What's the lift going to be from Anthony Lynn? I think that's the whole question, right?
I was thinking about that this morning.
What will the lift be? Are they going to get a good... Remember, it's Staley's first year, too. There's adjustments to becoming a head coach. We saw Fanny Pack Vic. I mean, he spent half the year trying to figure out how to get the Fanny Pack on.
I still can't forgive Anthony Lynn for that decision in the game in Tampa. Up 17, less than a minute to go, Buccaneers one timeout, and instead of taking a knee, they run the football, they fumble in some...
in a rainstorm.
Exactly. Precipitation ongoing there, and then, of course, Tampa scores, cuts to 10, and they win the game.
What about when they completed the Hail Mary in Buffalo? They were catching 5. They completed the Hail Mary down to the 3-yard line with 30 seconds left, and they ran the ball into the middle of the line with no timeouts, needing 2 scores.
Hey, that's the greatness of Anthony Lynn.
I mean, there were a lot of situations. The Monday night game here, Ravens Raiders. Ravens laying 4.5 on the road. Are you tempted to tease the Raiders up in this spot?
Great question. I don't know, because that defense was so horrendous. I mean, how much have they really improved?
I don't know. Paul Charchian likes the under in this game. That's his favorite underplay.
I like this one as well at 50.5. You'd like to see it at 51, or 52 would be an ideal number, but it's going to be tough. But here's the other thing. Remember, drive start at the 25 on touchbacks. If you come within the area code and breathe on a guy, it's a pass interference call. They've reduced the number of holding calls there are. It's geared towards offense. That's what the general public likes. So it's hard to bet these games under nowadays.
On our panel here at Circa, Mike Pritchard said, as a wide receiver, they're not calling pass interference on you. They're not calling offensive pass interference. Right. You pick, you rub, all these plays are designed to run into the DBs, and they're not going to call it.
That's a great point Pritch made. I think that's so important to keep in mind. And you see it, it's got to be such an agree. I mean, you have to literally shove the guy to get an offensive PI call.
Bill's 6.5 against the Steelers. You tease them down, you play money line,
I would tease
you lay the points.
It depends on what the money line number is, but I would tease that one down. That's a great example of a team that I would tease down that I think is going to win a football game.
We both love them to win the AFC East. I think it's great. Good show.
I think so, too.
Nice
Good
job.
start.
Covered a lot.
Britain doing a good job.
Stay tuned to VSiN. Up next, Betting Across America.
Get enough football? Then look no further than the GMFB podcast. Join me, Kay Adams, alongside Nate Burleson, Peter Schrager, and Kyle Brandt for a daily breakdown of the league's biggest stories.
Between game plan breakdowns and fantasy tips, we've got you covered for all your football needs.
We got recaps, retweets, and reaction to all the wild moments you might have missed on and off the field.
Listen to the Good Morning Football podcast weekdays on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you love trivia, if you love the hugely popular Stuff You Should Know podcast, then the Trivial Pursuit game, Stuff You Should Know edition, is for you. With 600 questions, weird and unbelievable trivia in categories like myths, legends, and conspiracies. SYSK selects a mix of topics handpicked by podcast hosts Josh and Chuck. Get the Trivial Pursuit game, Stuff You Should Know edition today, wherever you get your favorite board game.
You know the final score. Now listen to the NFL podcast that tells you why it happened.
Do they have a skill or trait that is going to allow them to survive?
Dan Orlovsky, Scott Pioli, and me, Bob Wischusen. We're tape heads, going inside the coaching tape and giving fans the answers.
Regardless of what the hierarchy is, folks need to be servants to the head coach.
Listen to Tape Heads on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.